So glad to have you ladies here. Thank you for being part of this interview. I would love for you to just introduce yourselves. I know you guys have been part of the Restoration Church story, but for those who don't know you, share a little bit. Who are you?
I'm Haley, I'm 17, and I'm going to be a senior at Del Norte High School.
Hi, my name is Kristin, and I'm Haley's mom.
Nice.
Yeah, our family's been a part of Restoration for, we figured about 3 years now. So yeah, we definitely consider it our home and where we come to connect in a little different way these days, but still coming to connect.
Yeah. I think the way that definitely I connected to Restoration was about around my freshman year of high school. I remember during worship service one day, I just felt very moved. At the time I felt very lost, very alone, very heartbroken, and was really wondering how I was going to fit in to school, how I was going to fit in with people. Really felt God remind me that He was there for me, and I hadn't felt it in that way before. I had felt God's presence in different churches and alone at my home, but really here it was extremely overwhelming of just that love and acceptance without condition, and that was baptism Sunday. And I remember you asking and Kurt asking if there was anybody that wanted to be baptized that day, and I leaned over to my dad and I said, I think I'm gonna go get baptized. And Mom, I think I'm gonna go get baptized. And they were like, okay. And so marched straight up there and got changed, and it was you that baptized me. And I remember that just being a very refreshing, cleansing, reaffirming moment of my faith that this was where I belonged. And I think that's what helped solidify for our family that this was the church that we belonged at.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. You know, we'd kind of been dipping our toes in the water here and checking it out in the exploration phases and wondering if it was the right fit for us. And I would say that moment was, okay, we're here. Thanks, Haley, we are committed. And, you know, it's just, this is the right place. And not just, we've always wanted to find the right place for growth, not just for Robert and I, but for the kids too. And we were in that phase of trying to find something that fit all four of us. We're looking for something a little more personal, more intimate, and something that really had an openness for all people. And that message really drew us as a family, that you don't have to be any certain way to be welcomed here, that you walk in and everyone's here for you. Yeah. And that's what we feel the model of Christ is. You know, come as you are, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your faith journey is, you know, just come and be accepted.
Yeah, for sure. Well, share a little bit about what have been some of the next steps that you've taken to kind of really make you feel like home here.
Well, for a while we kept seeing the promo trailers for Alpha, and it was join Alpha, try it, just do it. And so the first round of Alpha kind of came along, and I remember seeing, okay, that seems something maybe for people that are older than I am. But then the second round came along, and there were some testimonial videos up on the screen, and Mom and I both, after church one Sunday, were like, I think I want to try Alpha. Oh, you do too? Okay, well, I guess we'll go together. And that was kind of unexpected for me. I expected to be like, oh, I kind of want to go try this. And you'd be like, high five, go kid. But the fact that you wanted to do it too, and we were on the same page, was really special. So we got to come the first night pre-COVID, I think maybe the only night pre-COVID.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, and sit around in a small group and share about why we wanted to join Alpha. For me, I'm going to be a high school senior in about a couple of days, and I'm looking at applying to colleges, looking at applying to some smaller private Christian universities, and I don't want to go into that setting without a knowledge of who I am with Christ. I don't want to go into it without knowing my faith statement and my faith journey and answers to big questions. I wanted to be able to find those answers in an environment with people that I love and I'm comfortable with, rather than trying to struggle to figure it out on my own while I'm in college. So for me, Alpha was perfect, and the fact that I got to do it with my mom and with you and with Taylor Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, it was fun to be able to do it together, have a little bit different faith experience at the same time, and even though, you know, the length of time that we've been Christians is different, I think there's always a place where you can learn, and there's always unanswered questions. Sometimes some of the best questions come from brand new Christians, and you think, wow, I've never even looked at it that way.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, what do we do with it? How do we answer that? I don't know. And just having I don't know be okay also.
Yeah. And it helped me solidify too. You know, you and Dad have raised us in the church. We've been going to church since we were babies, but the message has been clear that my faith will be my own, that this is the way I'll be raised until I'm out of the house, but they've always wanted me to have my own relationship with Christ and not have it be something that's forced onto me and beaten down with Bible verses, but to really have that personal relationship with Christ. And wow, this faith really is my own, and I'm glad that it's something we can still share together.
Yeah.
Kristin, I'd love for you to just share a little bit as we're in this journey through the Arrows series, talking about parenting and talking about all the different stages and phases. You know, we've got a lot of young families in our church, but can you speak a little bit to what for you as a mom who's now preparing to launch your senior in a year from now, you know, we'll be launching her out of the nest. Share a little bit about the journey, you know, from the beginning through the different stages of childhood. What has that parenting relationship been like for you guys? How does it even feel now as you're kind of in this new, you know, uncharted territory together?
Yeah, those are all good questions. You know, as we've kind of approached the teenage years, we kept hearing as we were getting closer, teenage years are basically a reflection of the toddler years. They're just bigger people with deeper questions and bigger emotions. And as we've kind of been navigating through the teenage years, you know, Haley's 17 now, and our son Colin is 14. Kind of seeing those reflections, but realizing that as a parent, our role is very different at those ages. As far as our faith goes, that kind of has grown in stages too, and trying to figure out what's appropriate for them at the different ages. But as a couple, Robert and I have always decided, you know, our faith is a part of the culture of our family. So whatever it looks like, it needs to be a day-to-day thing. And it's always been important to us as people, but even more so as parents, to just live those little moments. And you don't even necessarily need to point to it or speak to it. You know, doing the routine things as well that are kind of comforting, saying prayer before meals, doing our nighttime prayers before bed, and including the kids in that, making it something just natural. This is just what we do. We talk to God, you know, nature's always been a super important part of my family, of who I am, my identity. It's a major way of how I connect with God, and same with Robert. So we've always wanted to get the kids outside. We've always taken them on hikes and just shown them through God's creation. You know, this is how amazing God is. And those little moments when they're small and everything looks so big, that's kind of we felt like that's our entryway into, you know, this is God, this is amazing. And then kind of transitioning into, okay, this is kind of the personal relationship part. Like, you can talk to God. He's gonna listen to you. You can have conversations. And church being really a major part of that for us, of having the kids be able to have those lessons from the very beginning too, that are simple, they're developed specifically for them. And then those experiences and those lessons grow, and as friendships become more central to them, at first it's kind of the parents are the central part of their world, so whatever we say is, it's just kind of truth. And then you transition into, now it's more about what my friends are saying. And wanting to surround them with friends who have that same foundation. So those conversations are happening at that level. And having places where they can do that. Again, kind of their own group and starting their own identity. So similar ways that parenting changes is kind of how we've tried to change and grow with our faith with the kids as well. And I think it's worked out pretty well. Those moments when you start to see it become their own are probably the most triumphant moments as a parent, because they're not yours. You know that ultimately God's given them to you for a time and a purpose, but that they're His, and to see them reach out and take God's hand on their own will is like, okay, it's working. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Well, you guys have raised an incredible young woman, Haley. The more I've gotten to know you, just so struck by your leadership at such a young age, to be as passionate and fiery and just a heart for justice, a heart for your friends who maybe feel marginalized. Like, I have just loved seeing that.
Thank you.
And that is just the heartbeat of God. That is the image that you bear of Him. And so I would love to hear from you. What do you see as an opportunity when you think of your friends, your peers, people your age, when you think of the church, right? So good, bad, and the ugly, like all of the experiences that you've had in life, all of leading up to this point. For someone your age, for your friends, for people that you know that maybe aren't in a relationship with God, what do you see as some opportunities of how the church, of what your generation and of what people your age need the church to be right now more than ever?
So I think the most difficult part is overcoming the barriers that I think the church as a whole has created. I believe in my generation, unfortunately, Christianity and church have become synonymous with judgment. And that's not the way it should be at all. My faith has been very personal to me, and so it's been difficult for me not to be skeptical of the church when it seems like you hear messages of hate for the LGBTQ community coming from the church. How is that the message of Jesus? The message of Jesus is love and acceptance and justice and equality. How does that hate go hand in hand with the God that I know? And for me, the answer is it doesn't. And so it's really, how do you overcome that barrier with my generation that, okay, yes, this big, broad, the church is saying these things of hate and has excluded women from leadership positions and may not always be kind to communities of color or the marginalized or the immigrants, but Jesus himself was a man of color who worshiped with women, who led the sick, the hungry, the broken, the weary.
Preach, girl.
This is who Jesus is.
Yeah.
The church is not perfect because the church is made up of humans. But my relationship with Jesus has shown me that he is a man of justice and a man of love. And I think if more people saw that and if more people knew that, the church itself would become more whole. And so I think for my generation, a struggle is possibly creating those personal relationships with Jesus in settings that may not have a relation to the church individually or as a whole. Because if you get to know Jesus before you get to know the church, maybe you can find a church that's right for you, that has that message of acceptance. But if you step into a church that doesn't have that message right off the bat and you just get slapped in the face and thrown out the door, it's really hard to come back. And so for me, that is just trying to live that message of accepting love. Just, I will fight for you, I will be your friend, I will do what I can to lift you up, and it doesn't have to be, oh, it's all because of Jesus, pointing to it every single second of my life in words, but really just living that out. And so I think that's how the church can, well, maybe not the church, but Jesus can reach people my age.
Yeah. Well, I'm just so in awe of the way that you live that out. Your hunger to learn, your humility to even own, I don't get this perfect all the time, but to say, I'm committed to fighting for, I am committed to being that kind of friend. In word, maybe, but mostly through just how you live, through how you embody the mind of Christ and his love. Man, watch out, world. Thank you guys for the way that you have just brought so much of your story, so much of just your journey. Thank you for being a part of this church. Thank you for sharing. And just, for me, having little kids that are in that toddler years, to see that on the hard days, Kristin, if you were to speak to some of the parents that might be in some of those toddler grade school years, or they're in the thick of it, maybe phase 1 of the toddler rebellion,
Yes.
We're not quite in those teen years yet. What would just be some words of wisdom or just some encouragement that you would want to pass along?
It does pass. Things change, it's tough. The toughest, yet the most rewarding job we could ever do is being a parent. We've told our kids that too. It's the most rewarding, but it's tough to do that investment every day, day in and day out. And at the beginning, it seems like time goes so slow, and then suddenly there's a button and it just speeds by. It's just so fast. I remember people telling us, well, just really enjoy that time when they're little and they're babies and they're toddlers, but it's hard work. And it is hard to remember to enjoy it in the moment. So I think just that continuing to persevere and invest in knowing it is worth it. But a lesson that I learned from my parents that we tried to really pass on and own in our parenting, that I think is very central to even at the beginning stages, is telling your kids you're sorry. Just that one simple thing to be authentic with them, that you're a real person too, and we don't know all the answers, we don't have it all together, and being willing to be humble to your kids and say, hey, I messed up and I'm sorry I hurt you, and giving them the opportunity to forgive you as a parent, I think is really powerful, and kind of sets that ongoing work with the kids. So not feeling like you have to be perfect all the time and show them this perfect mom or dad self, but being honest and authentic. They know. They're smart. They're so smart. They're so smart. And the sooner you can break down those walls and those barriers, even at those young ages, I think just helps produce growth in the long run. So hang in there. Hang in there. They're worth it.